Let's discuss checkboxes. To add a checkbox to our form, I'll use the input tag with the type attribute set to checkbox. Next goes the name attribute, which is useful when you're sending data to the server. I'll put toppings. Then goes the value. I'll put cheese. This value will be sent to the server when this checkbox is checked and the form is submitted. There you go. It's not pretty, but still a checkbox. I can select it and submit it. There is our topping cheese. This value only goes to the server when the checkbox is selected. Let me show you that. If I don't select the checkbox, the server will not receive the value when the form is submitted. At this stage, it's almost impossible for users to figure out what this checkbox is about. We need a label here. You already know how to add labels to inputs and link them together. I'll write label for, the value is going to be topping cheese, and I'll add ID to the input, which will be topping cheese too. The ID must be unique for each element on the page. Don't forget to add the actual label, cheese. Now it's clear. Clicking on the label will also toggle the checkbox. This is nice for usability. But don't forget to link your label with the input using the same value for the for and ID attributes. Otherwise, it won't work. Checkboxes are great when you want to give users multiple options and allow them to select more than one. It's like having a list of toppings for a pizza where you can pick just what you like. You might want mushrooms, pepperoni, or olives. Now let's add a few more to make a list of toppings. Each one will be on a separate line, so I'll start with the P tag. The label tag, this topping will be mushrooms, so I'll add 4 topping mushrooms. Then the actual label is mushrooms. Now the input, type checkbox, name toppings, the value this time mushrooms. And the ID value will be the same as the for. I'll quickly repeat the same for the pepperoni and olive toppings. There you go. But now, if I select 2 or more toppings and submit the form, the server receives only the last checkbox value. That's because of the way we specified the name of our checkboxes. When we have only one checkbox, this works. But with multiple checkboxes that share the same name, we need to add square brackets, like this, for it to work properly. Think of it as telling the server all these checkboxes are related and part of the same group named toppings. So all the checkboxes in the group must share the same name with the square brackets. Now, if I select all those checkboxes and submit the form, we have all the values on the server. Let's say that the cheese topping is popular and we want it to be already pre-selected when someone visits our page. For that, we have the checked attribute. I'm gonna just add the checked attribute like this. It's like saying, yes, cheese is a great choice, so let's include it from the start. The checked attribute doesn't need a value. Its presence alone does the work. Now, this checkbox is always checked by default. And this is how you add checkboxes to your forms. Let's move on to radio buttons. Radio buttons are great when you want the user to choose just one option from a few choices, like their favorite pizza size. You can't have both small and medium size for one pizza. Let's add the ability to choose pizza size to our form. So I'll add the P element because I want all the options to be on separate lines. I'll write input, type, and I'm going to use radio because we want a radio button here. Then the name attribute will be pizza size, camel case. This button is for a small pizza, so the value will be small. I'm planning to have a label for this radio button, so I'll add ID. its value will be pizza size small. Next, I'll add label for pizza size small. Small is for the content. Let's also add the HR element here to separate sizes from toppings. Here is our radio button. I can select it. The label is to the right because we put the label element after the input in our code. Now let's add options for medium and large pizzas. Each radio button is its own input tag. So I'll add P and then input type radio. For the name attribute, we give all the pizza size radio buttons the same name, pizza size. This is crucial. It tells the browser these radio buttons are grouped together. Only one can be selected at a time within this group. The value attribute specifies the value sent to the server if this option is selected. For medium size, it's medium. The ID attribute is going to be pizza size medium. I'll add the label the same way here. For will be pizza size medium. The content is medium. This is great. Now, if I select one radio button, the other one is deselected. And if I select the medium size pizza size and a couple of toppings and submit this form, the server receives all of that. Now I'll quickly add a radio button for the large pizza size. So P tag again, input, radio, the name is still pizza size, the value will be large, and the ID is going to be pizza size large. Remember, we want the ID attribute to be unique. And don't forget the closing greater than symbol and the label. There you go. All the sizes are available now. If we want a radio button to be pre-selected, we can add the checked attribute to it. It's the same as with checkboxes. The only difference is that only one radio button in a group can be checked by default. This means I can add the checked attribute to only one of the inputs that has the pizza size name, the medium size radio pre-selected. And that's it. This is how you add radio buttons to your forms. Remember, radio buttons are like single choice questions. Use the same name attribute for all buttons in the group and set a unique value for each option. Now let's talk about creating a drop-down list in HTML. Let's add one to our form. We use select and option tags for this. Our drop-down is going to be for choosing your pizza sauce. We'll start with the select tag. It's the container that holds all the sauce options. This is where we put the name attribute for this dropdown. The name attribute is what gets sent to the server when you submit the form. I'll put sauce. Inside, we add option tags for each choice. To add the tomato sauce option, I'll write option, then the value attribute. Each option has a value, which is what gets sent to the server when you pick that option. I'll write tomato. Then the text between the opening and closing option tags is what you see in the drop-down list. It's going to be tomato. Now let's add more sauces. For each sauce, we add an option element. I'll add barbecue and pesto. There you go. Now we can select the sauce we want for our pizza. I'll choose barbecue. And there it is, our barbecue medium-sized pizza with cheese. Let's also add a label that's going to be sauce, capital S. Don't forget to make sure that the for attribute is the same as the ID. Otherwise, they won't be linked. Let's also add a horizontal rule to separate it visually even more. This is better. Notice that when this page loads, we have the tomato option selected by default. But what if I want the barbecue sauce to be selected by default? Because why not? It's a great sauce. For that, we can use the selected attribute. It's kind of like the checked attribute, but for the option tag. So I'll add the selected attribute to the barbecue option. Great. The barbecue option is selected by default when this page loads. And that's it. Now you know how to add drop-down lists to your page.
If this video was helpful, subscribe to get more. Now check out this next video.